Hi, my name is Ben, and today we are going to be walking through the quick startup procedures for a US-2000. In a previous video, we learned how to unpackage the machine, thread it, power it up, etc. Here we're going to walk through some of the basic settings that you would use when you first receive your machine to start using it. We'll walk through a few different modes for functionality, what might work for some products, what might work for some different products, etc. One of the great things about the US-2000, there are a whole bunch of different parameters that you can adjust to be able to get it dialed in for your specific application. That can seem a little bit intimidating at first, but hopefully through this video we can walk through some of the basics to get you up and going in just a couple minutes time. What we're looking at right here is one of our most common machines, a US-2000 360, 260, 30. Most of what I am going to walk through will apply to a bunch of different models as well. If you happen to have any questions that the machine that you have in front of you doesn't look exactly like the machine that we have, don't be afraid to give us a call, and our technicians will be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So what you'll see, I've got the machine powered up. It's ready to go. Everything that you do to interface with the machine is right here on the HMI, Human Machine Interface. I'll walk through some of the basics, the buttons that you'd be using to be able to use the machine. The first one that we'll take a look at, right down here, the bottom right-hand corner, the reset button. That's used for clearing jams, threading machines, etc. You'll see when I push it, what happens is the arch opens and the material is cut. So you do that anytime you need to remove material from the arch. Again, a machine jam, something along those lines. Clearing a jam will be something that we cover in a different video, but just some basic functionality. I push it again, the machine feeds, and it's ready to band. Taking a look and kind of moving around through the various buttons here, the top right one is the menu button. When I press it, we get in to be able to go to a whole bunch of different parameters that are inside the machine. We're not going to walk through all of those right now. Those will be covered in some subsequent videos, but this is where you'd access it. If I press that button again, it brings us back to the home screen. The next two buttons, the up and down, what those will do is adjust the parameter that's being displayed on the screen. Right now, what you can see is band tension. As I press the up button, that value is increasing. As I press the down button, that value is decreasing. Depending on the mode that we're in for the machine, it may say band tension here, it may say fixed length, it may say soft tension. I'll cover each of those here in just a moment. But no matter what the parameter that's displayed, the up and down arrows will toggle that value. The soft button puts it into a different mode. I'll cover that in just a second. And then what we've got here are some hotkeys. Those hotkeys change depending on the screen that we're on or the mode that we're in. But on the home screen, for the most part, they always kind of look the same. I'll address each of those here shortly as well. Now that we've kind of seen what the main buttons here are on the HMI, let's talk about how we can cycle the machine. There are one of three different ways that we can cycle the machine. Before we do that, I'm actually going to decrease the band tension. 39% is a little more than I would typically apply to a stack of envelopes. So let's back that down to 10% should be about right. So the first thing I can do is set my product in here. This small hand right here is one of the activation buttons. So I push next to the hand here. What you see is a band gets applied. The other way that I can activate it is via a foot trip. Every one of our US-2000 machines ships with a foot switch or a foot trip. Again, put the product in by stepping on the foot switch. A band is applied. And then the third and probably most common way that people cycle the machine is in automatic mode. So you'll see this soft key here, the upper left one, kind of looks like a sun. That's actually represents a sensor and a foot trip. This is where we toggle back and forth between the two. When the photo sensor is off, you have to push either the hand button or the foot trip down below. When I turn that on, now I can do it in auto mode. And now that I have changed from off to on, when I see an arrow here, I need to essentially save it. So I push that button, it has been saved. I'm going to bring myself back to the home screen. Now, as soon as I set the product down, the banding machine is going to cycle. So what's happening is, as soon as I set that product down, there's a sensor on the back side of the arch that sensor, as soon as it sees the product, it cycles the banding machine. You'll notice that as I set this down, it's only going to band one time. Sometimes there are certain applications where you might want to apply a couple of different bands. That's what this soft key is for here. I can push this, change from off to on, so I'm in continuous banding is what this parameter is called. Turn it on, push this button to save it. Now, when I bring a product down, the machine's just going to keep banding without me having to remove it. So depending on your application, it might make sense. Again, if you wanted to band here and here, and you wanted to just band, slide the product back, you don't have to lift it out of the way of the sensor, set it back down in front of that sensor. I'm going to turn that feature off now. The US-2000 operates in one of three different modes. There is band tension, which is the mode that we've been operating in thus far in this video. There's soft tension, and then there's fixed length. Band tension is really the high-speed version of where we draw down until the banding material comes into contact with the product, and then we pull to a certain amount of force, which is adjusted essentially by the amount of band tension that's applied. We can go up or down. But we're doing that with a fairly high speed. In soft tension, we're doing the same thing, but we're going to do it a little bit slower. And we would do that slower because we may, for example, want to band only 5 envelopes. And if we're going too fast, we're going to just kind of automatically crush that product. Or if we're using paper banding material and we've got a really rigid, hard object, if we come down too fast, we might have a tendency to break that paper. That's where soft tension comes in. We can do things a little bit more slowly, more delicately, and keep from damaging them. And then I'll touch on fixed length in just a moment. To switch from band tension to soft tension, we just push the soft button here. And you can see now I'm in soft tension, push it again, I'm back to band tension. What I want to show you is the difference in speed. So I'm in band tension now. When I put the product in, you'll see we come down pretty fast. When I switch over to soft tension, what you're going to see is it's going to come down dramatically slower. Much gentler, more delicate on the product. The downside there is that we're going at a slower speed, so if we're trying to get product out the door, that can be a hindrance. The nice thing though is what you'll see when I go into soft tension is this scale down here. The lower left-hand corner when we're in soft tension looks like a ruler. So when I push that, I'm going to get into soft length as the parameter, and you'll see it says reset equals teach. It goes away after a couple of seconds. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit reset. It goes into teach mode. When I now put this in here, it's going to cycle the machine. It does it in a nice slow manner. But what it did is it measured what the appropriate size of the product is. So it's saying 351 millimeters. It knows the size of this product, so it's going to come down at the same speed that it does in normal band tension and slow down right before it makes contact with the product. So you get the advantage of the speed to come down, and then it's going to transition. You can't even really see it, but it does transition right before it touches the product so that it's nice and slow. So it comes down nice and fast, slows down right before it touches your product. And you can actually tweak that a little bit, so if you decide, you know what, that's still a little bit too hard, I can bump up my soft length to 451 millimeters, so that's a little bit bigger in size than what the product is, or the circumference of the product is, where it's going to slow down. Hit enter, cycle it. Now it's slowing down a little bit sooner before it comes into contact with the product. And you can kind of tweak the difference in the soft length, and then I'm going to go back to the home screen, and then the actual tension. I've got it right now on the lowest possible tension. But you kind of use a combination of the actual tension itself and that soft length to kind of get it to a point where you really like the amount of tension that you're getting on your product. Thus far we've learned about the first 2 modes of operation for the US-2000, band tension and soft tension. Both of them bring the banding material down around the product and cinch that banding material to a certain amount of force or tension. The only difference is speed. Soft tension is more gentle, but sometimes even soft tension isn't enough to be able to band something very delicate. And for that purpose, we have a third mode of operation called fixed length. You can access fixed length by pushing the menu button. You'll see the first parameter that comes up here is fixed length. So I'm going to hit the enter button. I'm going to change it from off to on. Save it, and now when I come back to my home screen, instead of there being a percentage for the amount of tension that we're going to apply, what you'll see is a length. So 353 millimeters in this case for the product length. The way that this parameter works, it's going to come down to the same size band each and every time. So instead of coming down until it contacts the product, it's going to come down to a certain size, and then it's going to weld and cut automatically. Again, good for a very, very delicate product. So let's say, for example, that we wanted to do 5 envelopes. So what we'll do, I'm going to teach it the size of my product first. So much like we did in soft tension, push the ruler, we see reset equals teach. I'm going to go ahead, hit the reset button. Now when I put this into the arch, it's going to automatically cycle. So now it has learned the size of my product. And you can see that it's changed to 320 millimeters. So it's going to come down at a very fast speed to the same size band each and every time. So if I take this band off, put this guy in here. So even though it's just 5 envelopes, it's going to come down and be the perfect size each and every time, and it's not really applying any tension to the product. I can fine tune this size if I want to, so it's 320 millimeters. I can bump that up if I feel like, oops, I'm the wrong side, so move my cursor over here. So instead of 320 millimeters, let's say I think I need 323 millimeters. Save that value. Now it's going to be just a little bit bigger than what it was before. But I'm consistently bringing it down to be the same size loop each and every time. And you can actually see that if I put my hand in. It didn't draw any tension into my hand. It came down to just that size of loop. And as it did, as soon as it got to the appropriate size, it cut, it welded, and away we went. Those are the beginning parameters that you'll mess with in order to start up the US-2000. Hopefully somewhere in there you can kind of figure out how to start using it. Again, if you have questions, please don't be afraid to call one of our service technicians. They'd be more than happy to walk you through anything that isn't quite clear or any questions that you